What would you do if seconds before you said I do, 5 little boys walked into your wedding and called you dad? They came down the aisle 2 by 2, then one alone at the front. 5 boys, same navy suit, same unhurried walk. The room went quiet the way a room goes quiet right before something bad happens. Guests leaned toward each other, trying to place what felt wrong, until the nearest ones saw it clearly enough to say it out loud. Every one of those boys had the same face. They stopped in front of the groom. At the back of the ballroom, near the kitchen doors, a black chef in a stained apron stood completely still, watching him the way you watch someone you've been waiting 12 years to catch alone. The oldest boy stepped forward first. "Dad, you said you'd come back for us." The ring left the groom's hand before he decided to drop it. It hit the marble, spun once, rolled under the front row of chairs. As he flinched, his sleeve rode up half an inch, just long enough for woman in the third row to notice a thin white scar circling his wrist, and to notice a beat later that the oldest boy had the exact same one. He looked past the boys, past his bride, straight at the chef. The bride followed his eyes and understood, before anyone explained it to her, that the boys weren't the surprise. The chef was. He untied his apron, folded it once, set it down, and walked to the altar like he had nowhere else to be. "Told you I'd find you," he said, when the time was right. "Who are you to him?" the bride asked. The chef didn't look at her. "Someone he made a promise to, back when he still remembered making it." The groom's jaw tightened at that last part, like it had struck something true he couldn't name yet. "Tell them what happened 12 years ago, the chef said. 12 years ago what? The bride asked. Nobody answered her. A security guard moved toward the chef. The oldest boy stepped between them without raising his voice. "He's the reason we're alive. That did it." The groom went somewhere else entirely. Freezing rain, a dead train station, a kid too small for the coat wrapped around him. And then it was gone again, like a channel changing, leaving only a strange itch at his wrist where the scar was. "You've had that mark your whole life," the chef said quietly, "and never once asked where it came from. Some part of you decided it was safer not to ask." The oldest boy took a photo from inside his jacket and pressed it into the groom's hand. A younger version of himself, the chef, younger too. Between them, a small boy wearing a carved wooden pendant, the same one now hanging around the oldest boy's neck. "Where did you get this?" "I kept my promise," the chef said. "Question is whether you're finally ready to keep yours." The groom folded the photo into his fist. Nobody understood why yet, but it was already obvious he hadn't buried whatever this was nearly deep enough. That's where the chef took him, in the telling of it. Rain turning to sleet. A crying kid pulled him off his path and into an empty waiting room where a stranger stood over the boy like a wall, soot on his clothes, blood dried into the collar. "Help me get him out of the city," the stranger said. "Who's after you?" "People who don't leave witnesses, and people who don't like it when their numbers wander off." Numbers? The stranger hadn't answered that part. Not then. By morning, the 3 of them were gone from the city. The groom left them at a safe house he was sure no one would find. When he came back the next night, the station was ash. "Nobody survives that," people told him. "They told me you were dead," the groom said, back in the present to the chef standing in front of him now. Someone worked hard to make sure of it. The chef's calm finally cracked, because disappearing wasn't the promise you broke. That's when the man appeared at the ballroom entrance. He didn't need to. "Who are you?" the bride asked, though she was looking at her groom when she said it. "Interesting thing," the man said. "He knows exactly who I am." "You were there that night," the groom said. "I was more than there." The man let that sit a second before he broke it wide open himself. "I erased your memory, all of it, past a certain year. I made you believe your sons died in that fire, so you'd stop looking for them." The room didn't breathe. "You don't get to decide what I remember," the groom said. "No, but I watched you search for them for 8 years before I stepped in. Every birthday, every hospital record, every missing child flyer you tore down off telephone poles at 2 a.m. because you couldn't stand looking at it. I watched all of it, and I let you keep believing they were ash, because every question you asked was pulling someone closer to where they were actually hiding." The bride's hand had gone to her mouth. Even the guests who understand the details understood the cruelty of it. The fire, the groom said. Tell me about the fire. The man's confidence slipped for the first time. It wasn't meant to kill them. A pause too long to be comfortable. It was meant to kill you. The scrap of burned paper the chef said on the table read, Project ends when the father is gone. Father, not subject, not asset. Father. You knew someone was coming to erase me, the groom said. Silence, which was its own answer. I knew, the man admitted. I didn't warn you. Warning you would have gotten you killed faster than silence did. Then who lit the fire? The groom asked. The chef's face changed, a memory surfacing that she'd kept buried a long time. Smoke, screaming, this man pulling 5 children out of a collapsing building, while someone else stood at the edge of the frame, watching, not helping. The man produced a security still from that night and set it down. The groom's hands weren't steady when he picked it up. He recognized the face immediately. The man who'd stood next to him for years, planned this wedding with him, told him 100 times to let the past go. His best man. He's the one who convinced you they were gone, the chef said. A memory finally broke loose. Not the fire, but the conversation before it. A warning. If you want to survive, you let them go. He wasn't protecting them, the man said. He was protecting whoever was paying to keep this quiet. The groom looked at the 5 boys, then down at his own wrist, at the scar he'd never once asked about. What was I part of? He was already unclasping his watch as he said it. Pried the back off with his thumbnail, a motion his hands knew better than his memory did, and a sliver of folded paper fell into his palm. Nobody in that room had put it there but him. The chef went very still. Before they touched your memory, you never trusted either of us to finish this without you. I didn't trust anyone, the groom said. I was right not to. In his own handwriting, 5 names, 1 address, and a single line. If you're reading this, ask what the project actually proved. Then ask it, the chef said. The project was never about creating children, she said. It was about proving whether a person could be copied completely and still come out human. Memories, instincts, the way a person loves the people standing in front of them. Nobody had ever gotten that far before. She looked at the scar on his wrist, the same one on the oldest boys, and didn't finish the sentence the easy way. Nobody had gotten that far twice. The groom went cold. Twice. They were never the final result, the chef said, quiet now, almost gentle. You were. Everything after you was just them checking their own work. He looked down at 5 faces that were, in the end, looking back at him. Own beginning. I wasn't just protecting your sons, the chef said. I was protecting the promise you made me before you forgot who you were. You asked me to make sure that if they ever got to you again, at least one of you would still remember why you mattered. The groom said nothing. Somewhere behind him, his bride was still holding the ring that never made it back onto his hand. Who's they? He finally asked. The people who funded it. A breath. And they're still funding it.